Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. So this is where I collect together all the different albums and things that I've purchased over the past week. You guys see the New Music Now episodes. That's stuff that I get right then and there and I unbox it with you, but now I'm gathering it all up. And here is where I actually go through more of my take on these new releases, having been able to give them a listen and that sort of stuff, and then of course the stuff that is the catalog and whatnot, but I finally get into it and enjoy it. So we're going to do all that here. I've got 21 things to go through with you, so stick around for that. But before we do, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on everything that's going on in the world of music, just like this, with a new episode of New Music Finds. So as we always do, we get to kick off with brand new releases here, and I've actually got one from the previous week that I didn't get in time when I filmed last week's episode, and then I got the stuff from just this past Friday. So we're going to do the one from the previous week of release, and it was Black Star Riders. The album itself, Wrong Side of Paradise, brand new, and this one here I want to say is their fifth studio album, but it's actually the first one without Scott Gorham, Thin Lizzy guitarist. And remember, Black Star Riders was actually Thin Lizzy, and they were recording their first studio album together, and he decided to change the name to not release it under Thin Lizzy. So they were the touring version of Thin Lizzy that ultimately became Black Star Riders. And those first four albums that Scott Gorham plays on, and I don't know how much of it was really Scott Gorham or if it was, the other members of the band, but everybody has changed in the lineup. In fact, at this point, Ricky Warwick, the lead vocalist who came from The Almighty, is the only original member left now in Black Star Riders. And unfortunately, with this particular release here, it has, in my opinion, almost none of what characterized Black Star Riders at the beginning. They very much had the Thin Lizzy sound early on. And Scott Gorham didn't do a lot of the writing in it, so I didn't really feel that it was much of him. When I heard he was leaving, I wasn't too worried about it. But now listening to this, it really just sounds like the last few Ricky Warwick solo albums. There isn't any of that sort of lead guitar sound that has that Irish folk styling to it that is what made Thin Lizzy and the early Black Star Rider albums so unique and so stand out. So I'm not hearing it in this. I'm very disappointed. Unfortunately, it is a good album, don't get me wrong, but it is not sounding like Black Star Riders. And the reason I liked Black Star Riders was that it sounded like Thin Lizzy. So check this out before you pick it up if that is of issue to you. All right, now we've got three things that just came out this past Friday here, January 27th. First one up, Vai Gash. So Steve Vai presenting this. It is a project that he did back in 1991 with this guy here, and I don't know his real name, but he went under the nickname of Gash because he had been in a horrible bike accident and when he was 21 or something. And of course you can see it on this if you really want to. Unfortunately, I think that really detours from the album itself. I do not care for this picture, and looking at this and really wish they had done something different to it. To the same degree, this back cover photo here doesn't do it for me. So unfortunately, the art of this is hurting it for me. The music, on the other hand, is fantastic. And I was a little on the fence about it when I first heard it because it is not the typical shred style stuff that Steve Vai does. He wanted to write music that would be for him to go out and ride his motorcycle to, some just straight up rock and roll, sounding like some classic 70s rock style stuff. And when I heard that, I was kind of a little on the fence about it. Then I heard the first single and it didn't really grab me. And, seeing the album cover kind of turned me off from it. So it took me actually getting the album and listening to it to actually really enjoy it. And now I'm blown away by it and really enjoy it. So I got to look past that art, but I do enjoy the album. The inside has a cool shot of Steve Vai on his bike. And I would have loved that to have either been the cover or at least on the backside, so that you could have had this guy Gash on the front and Steve Vai on the backside. In this particular case, we don't get Steve Vai anywhere, we just get this guy. Now, this was a friend of his, and unfortunately he passed away some time ago, and so I'm sure this is all done in tribute to his friend, and that's probably why Steve Vai is putting himself on it, but putting this guy, and for the fact that it's not really a Steve Vai sounding record. Now, if you like what he did with David Lee Roth and you like what he did with White Snake, it is a little less of the guitar shredding that even those albums have, but it's that sort of thing. It is more song oriented than the shred style stuff. But it is a really good sounding album. Okay, then there was Ronnie Romero put out his second solo album, Raised on Heavy Radio. This title, I think the other one was called Raised on Rock Radio or Raised on Radio or something like that. So this one is a companion album to that. It is a part 2, so it is also a covers album. But this one focusing on heavy rock, and in most cases I would call it heavy metal more than heavy radio. But we got Deep Purple on here, we've got Accept, we've got Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, we've got Rainbow, we've got Yngwie Malmsteen, a lot of cool covers on this, and I like this one far better than the first one. So really digging that. Put that on. And you know what I'd really like is if Ronnie Romero would do an album of all Rainbow songs, and or all Rainbow and Deep Purple, because he was hired and fronted a live version of Rainbow, and they recorded some one-off singles together, but they never did a whole album. So I would really like if we could get a studio album of cover songs like that to cement a little bit more, his persona as a Rainbow vocalist. That's just my take on it, though. All right, and the last new release was for Uriah Heep, Chaos in Color. Cool ebook version of it, that limited edition that actually came with a patch on this. And it's got one bonus track on here, Save Me Tonight, a demo, which is demo of the first track on here. And this one here, a good solid album, but it hasn't grabbed me. There's nothing on it that stands out. Now, that's not to say it's not a good album also, because I may just not be in the mood for it at the moment, just like that Black Star Riders. I could really dig that Black Star Riders at a later date. So I know it's a good album. I'm going to set it aside, and I'm going to wait until I'm really in the mood for some Uriah Heep, and I'll pull it back out, and I'm probably going to really dig it at that point. But I am liking the album, but it's not sticking with me. So yeah, that's kind of where I feel about that. All right, so I got some stuff in the mail from, let's see, I guess actually all three. Well, these are either eBay or Amazon releases. I'm not entirely remembering at this point, but the Tubes, and this one here being the Outside Inside. And this one here has She's a Beauty on, and that was their big 80s hit. I have a best of that was on. I have some other stuff. I have the Completion Backwards Principle, which I recently bought. In fact, I'm going to talk about it here in just a minute, realizing I'm getting out of order here. So when I got into that one there, it made me order this one. So then that's why picking that up. Here's a cool band that I knew nothing about. I'm listening to, I can't even remember what it was. A group that straddles the fence of Christian rock. And so then my Apple Music gave me some Christian rock thereafter. And the band was Idle Cure. Never heard of them, don't know anything about them. This album popped up, and it's called Tough Love. But the third track on here, Frontline, was the song that it premiered for me. And man, that blew my mind. I was like, what is this? This was so good. So I had to look this up. And it wasn't actually until after I looked into it that I even found out they were a Christian rock band. But like I said, I kind of realized later on, I was sort of like, oh, I get it. This artist, sometimes falls under that banner. It wasn't Stryper, but I can't remember what it was that I was listening to. And it was sort of like, okay, I understand why that they had done that, at that particular thing. It was something like, an artist that has some Christian rock albums that made rock and then left and then did another thing. But it was one of those. Anyway, aside from all of that, definitely recommend checking this out. Definitely some very, very cool glam metal vibes from this. The whole album, start to finish. It's not, it may well be a Christian rock band, but I'm not hearing any of that stuff. It's less Christian than Stryper. So it's not being shoved down your throat or anything like that. So if that's, of issue to you, you can dig this just being what it is. Got myself another Dave Mason. I got the one that is, I think it's just called Two Hearts. Two Hearts. There we go. Ordered this one off of eBay. I know that. MCA Records edition of this. Glad to get this one. It's out of print. Just adding it to the collection. Very 80s sounding of his. Almost not what I like about him. But you know me, and I love my 80s stuff. So at a certain point in time, I will really be digging that. You guys saw that I went to Book Off in Manhattan, and a place that I used to hit up all the time, and unfortunately the prices were through the roof and just not what I was expecting, and the store has really changed, and it's probably not going to be somewhere I'm going to go back to too often. I picked these two up, Grand Funk Best Of and Collector Series, and you saw that both of these were $15 even though they were used, but this one's going for $28 to $30 online, and this one here, same thing, going for a lot. So picking them up for the 15 bucks, I didn't feel so bad about, but walking out of there having only gotten 2 CDs for 30 bucks, I kind of felt like I'd gotten ripped off, even though I knew I was getting some rare, hard to find albums. But yeah, so that's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. Now, I had seen this one that the day that I was there, but I didn't buy it. Sweet Live at the Marquee. And so I really decided this was a $5 one. So I went back and I picked this one up because I didn't realize it was actually out of print and hard to come by. And then the reissue of it doesn't look like this anymore. And I wanted the original 1986 version of it that came out on Maze Records. What I didn't know is that there's 5 studio tracks that are on this at the end of it. And I was really glad to get it for that. Afterwards, as again, you guys know I'm not a big live album fan, but I do like this one here because I think they pump in crowd noise to make it sound like a big concert, even though this is at the Marquee, which I think is a club in the UK. So not entirely sure, but that was pretty good. So I picked those up. All right, now back to one that I was showing you a little bit earlier that was from Sound Exchange. I stopped at Sound Exchange and I got some cool stuff, including this, the tubes, and the completion backwards principle. So this one here, was just something that sounded good to me and was glad to get it. It's got that 80s vibe to it. And of course, I showed you that I picked up the Outside Inside or whatever it's called. Where is that one? Let me pick this one up. Outside Inside, right? So this was the one that had the big hit on it. I wasn't actually sure what was going to be on this. It just sounded good to me. But this one here was so good that it made me pick that up. So I got 2 of these, and I've got some more tubes actually on order that you'll see hopefully in the next episode or so. This group here, Kayak, a Dutch group that I didn't really know anything about. Bit of a prog group kind of a thing. This release here, 73 or 74 release. But very interesting. Something that grew on me a lot while listening to it. I'm definitely going to dive deeper into this band. It was cool to get this on Esoteric Records because it has a good write-up on the band, good liner notes and everything in it that taught me something because I didn't really know anything about it. It's that, funny thing was, it was the logo by the band that I had seen so many times, never actually knew what that was saying, never stopped long enough to look at it, to read it. It wasn't until just popping up on a vinyl album that I stopped and I was like, well, wait, what is that? Oh, okay, Kayak, now I can pronounce it, kind of a thing. And Medusa Trapeze turned out to be absolutely fantastic. I didn't know any of the first 3 Trapeze albums with Glenn Hughes. I always had the later day era stuff after he had left. And I finally decided to give it a go, and I have to say I am really glad that I did. I steered clear of it because the vocals by Glenn Hughes didn't really sound like what Glenn Hughes grew into singing. He became a much better singer later on, in my opinion. And so I would listen to these and go, that doesn't sound like Glenn Hughes, and so I kind of steered clear of them. But I listened to this one over the course of the week, and every time I listened to it, I liked it more and more and more. So much so that I've ordered some more of the first 3 albums. I'm going to get You Are the Music, We're Just the Band. So I've got that one coming too. You'll see that one in a future episode. And of course, I showed you these, the 2 Rod Stewart albums, Camouflage, which has Infatuation, and what is this? Footloose and Fancy Free, Hot Legs. So just 2 classics. You got the 80s sound, you got the late 70s sound merging together, but filling in some voids on my Rod Stewart collection. And then the one record that I picked up from Sound Exchange, JoJo Gunn, Bite Down Hard. I was in a kick on, well, I'd been to the record show and seen some albums by Jay Ferguson, who, there he is right there. And as I understand, I think he's the keyboard and lead vocalist. So that's what I was actually looking for. And it turns out it's actually been very hard to find Jay Ferguson solo material. But I picked up some JoJo Gunn to fill that void in the interim, and hopefully going to find some down the road, so to speak. All right, moving on. So here we are with last thing here being I went to Factory Records and I found this, and I didn't know what this was because it turns out there was hard to find information on it. And in the end, when I finally tracked it down under enough stuff, it made sense. But Bonnie Tyler, It's a Heartache. Now, some of you guys may be looking at this going, knowing exactly what this is. But this is her second album. But if you go to Wikipedia and stuff like that, this is not what they show you for the second album or the title of it. I can't remember what the title is, but this was the US edition. Came out under the name It's a Heartache with this album cover. But the actual second album was not titled this. So all the write-ups and everything on what her second album is not this. And it was like, well, this is a whole album. This is not a best of. This was released in 1978. So it was very confusing to me, but I've always really loved this song here, and I thought for $6.95 I'd give it a shot, and I actually liked the entirety of the album. I only ever had the Bonnie Tyler stuff that was from the 80s that she had done, Hold Out for a Hero and Ravishing and stuff like that. So getting this now, which is a little more, kind of straight ahead rock or even rock pop, sort of a thing, was a little bit different and nice to get. Now we're talking about the JoJo Gunn, and while I'm looking for CD editions of these, I did find 2 Jay Ferguson albums. So I came a little later after the JoJo Gunn. Did find these though. This was the album that I had listened to at the record show that I really wanted. And again, I can't remember why I opted not to pick it up, but later on really wished I had. So I ended up getting these 2 here. So we've got Terms and Conditions. Both of these are sealed. This is $7.95 sealed. And this one here, also $7.95 sealed. Real Life Ain't This Way is this one. So I've got these 2. Haven't cracked them open yet because I literally just got them. I'm going to be enjoying those. This was a cool find. Canadian band called Toronto, Girls Night Out. You can notice that is a 3D album cover, and it does come with the 3D glasses. I checked, they are inside there. So I'm very excited about that. I did pull them out and check it, and sure enough, you pop on the old style 3D glasses. For those of you that might be a little young, I'm going to pull these out and show them to you. Nothing fantastic about them, but there they are. You put these on, the red and the blue, and it literally makes that thing pop out. That's the old school 3D style stuff, but just nice to have them in here. I've got enough of those glasses I could pull them out from anywhere. But to get this for $6.95 with the 3D glasses still, that was very cool. So female fronted hard rock from Canada, that's really good. All right, and the final one, Rick Derringer, Good Dirty Fun. An album of his that's never been issued a CD. At least I can't seem to find it in any which way or form. If it's out there, I haven't found it yet. Turns out really, really good. Opening track on here, I Play Guitar, really like on here. And was just very glad to actually get this on record. I think this one was also $6.95. I changed out the sleeve on it because, bad sleeve on it. But anyways, that's why there's no price on that one for me to be able to tell you exactly what that was. But there you go, 21 items that I picked up over the past week. I think that was 6 albums or 6 records and 15 CDs there. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Maybe you got some cool ideas out of it, and hopefully you enjoyed the review on the brand new stuff, giving you some insight into maybe whether or not you want to go pick any of that up or whatnot. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.